Cover crops. Which one should I use to fit in my rotation? My name is Michaela Schlatölter. I'm breeder at PH Petersen Saatzucht Lundsgaard, a private-owned and independent seed and breeding company located in the northern part of Germany, close to the Danish border. We are specialists for breeding nematode-resistant cover crops and other fodder crops, cereals and legumes. We do our own seed production, sales and marketing are together with Saatenunion and or together with local partners. The common cycle of cover crops are starting with the harvest of the main crop in July, beginning of August, until planting the next main crop in April, May next year. This period of cover crops is the less productive time of the year because of lack of sunshine, day length and heat units. We will talk about 5 key ways to improve soil fertility with cover crops. We will look at the types of cover crops which are used, and we try to find a conclusion for your erosion control and soil protection. Here you see a field with a heavy erosion event. The results of erosion are the loss of valuable soil, capping and consequently an inhibit air exchange of the soil, and emissions of plant protection and fertilizer into the surface water. This means that you are losing soil fertility and money, because 1 millimeter of soil loss costs you €1,000 nutrients and preparation costs. But cover crops not only protect against wind and water erosion, also it is a protection against overheating of the upper soil and evaporation. It promises you a kind of shadow ripening of the soil because of stabilization of pores, no splashing effect, and protection for soil life. This means that you are able for direct and mulch sowing. During growing, cover crops suppress weeds. Organic matter. There's a strong relation between sowing time and organic matter production. If you have a seeding time in June, July, you are easily produce 5 to 6 tons of dry matter with cover crops. If you have a seeding time later than the 15th of September, there's only the possibility of 1 to 1.5 tons in average. 1 kilogram of plant biomass fixes 2 kilograms of CO2 and releases 1.5 kilogram of oxygen. This climate-friendly organic matter feeds the soil microbiome and multiplicates the humus. Due to the climate change and global warming, the vegetation period for cover crops is extended, and we have the possibility to produce more organic matter with cover crops. This is a field with a fodder radish sown early on a good soil in high seeding density, and in the middle of the field you see 2 men looking at the plants. This is a field low seeding density and late sowing date, so the biomass production is very low. Here we see also a low biomass production, a fodder radish together grown with a linseed, but the nutrient content of the field were very low. Here we have a mixed cropping of legumes and other cover crops with a high biomass production. A mustard sown early, high seeding density and high nutrient. Fodder rape sown early, but the nutrient content of the soil were very low. So we see organic matter production with cover crop is influenced by seeding time. Longer growing period gives more organic matter. Soil and fertilizer conditions in the field, cover crop species, and seeding density. Low densities give low yields and problems with weeds. But there's also a variety effect in soil covering, and that is what we are breeding for. Here we have 3 examples of fodder radish in the early development, one variety with a medium early development, in the middle medium to good soil covering and good soil covering, and all the pictures are taken 14 days after sowing, and you see good soil covering gives early shadowing of the soil. Here 3 weeks and you see that the field is totally covered. The fine difference are more important in less favorable conditions as late sowing dates, poor soils and high weed pressures. The third way to improve soil fertility with cover crops is saving nutrients. After harvest of the main crop, there are sometimes more nutrients in the soil than expected. This is an example for autumn 2018, an average from 310 soil samples. The harvested yield was different from expected yield. The varieties were less productive than expected. High nutrient amounts remain in the soil. Without a cover crop, nitrogen will be placed to deeper soil layers. Losses depend on soil type and precipitation. But they are lost for the subsequent main crop and they lead to pollution of the groundwater. If you grow a cover crop, it saves and recycles the nutrients for the subsequent main crop and protects the groundwater. There's also danger of leaching for other nutrients like phosphorus, which might be lost by wind and water erosion. Sulfur is very mobile as SO4. Potassium in sandy soils, losses up to 50 kilograms per hectare. Nitrogen, as mentioned, between 10 to 100 kilograms per year. Magnesium, depending on soil types and pH. Cover crop promotes soil structure. Soil structure by rooting. The soil is less susceptible for soil compaction. Gas exchange till deeper soil layers is possible, and it is easier to prepare the soil for the following crop. We have an increase in water infiltration, and roots excretions offer amino acids, carbon and vitamins to fungi and bacteria. Root excretions stabilize the soil particles. Here we have some examples. The rooting of radish. Radish opens the deep soil layers. We have from rooting type a strong taproot with many lateral roots. The rooting depth is till 150 centimeters. We have rooting into the depth and into the width. Much mass below the cultivation horizon and ideal growing area for the subsequent crop. The daikon radish is a type of radish which has also a taproot with an enormous elongated radish body. Here we have the variety Stinger, which has the main root mass in the top soil. Here you can see on the left hand side. It leaves large holes in the topsoil and that promotes a warm spring warming. Upper part of the radish body is directly exposed to frost and it has a high frost susceptibility. The rooting of Sire oat, here we have Pratex, provides a long-lasting conservation of the mechanical opening of the soil. The rooting type is a tuft root and the rooting depth is down to 80 centimeters. The high proportion of fine roots helps to open the soil. The rooting with big-seeded legumes, here as an example by field beans, Avalon, which is especially small-seeded, has a very long taproot with strong lateral roots. The depth is down to 80 centimeters and field beans provide structure. Also a specialist is the blue bitter lupine Ildico, which has a rooting type deep taproot. It grows down to 1,60 m and it grows even through compactions. It is a pioneer plant. This rooting of the cover crops opens the soil. It forms cavities and lowers the compaction density. That helps for rapid infiltration of precipitation. And keep in mind, 160 radish plants per square meters are 160 root canals in over 1 meter depth. So we have a robuster soil in difficult weather conditions. We have a reduction of water logging. We have better trafficability and working conditions in spring and longer water supply in dry phases. We are also feeding useful soil organisms. There are a lot of soil organisms which have as a CN ratio very similar conditions as the cover crop. So a cover crop has a CN ratio of about 10 to 40 and it is close to fungi or like the earthworm. Thus the cover crop is like a dessert after harvesting the main crop for the soil organism. Parts of the plant and soil particles by digestion of the earthworm make very stable clay-humus complexes. So soil fertility is influenced by soil covering in soil structure, nutrient cycle, water infiltration, regulation of water and air, feeding soil organism, carbon content, and gas exchange. Which types of cover crops are used? We have at first the Brassica family with white mustard and Raphanus sativus, the oilseed or forage radish, as well as the daikon, which is related to the forage radish. We have the forage rape and the turnip rape. We have the old types marrow stem kale and sweet turnips, which are still used in some countries. The new one, Ethiopian kale, Brassica carinata. Indian mustard, Brassica juncea, camelina and rocket, as well as in some areas cress. Then we have the cover crop family of legumes, Persian clover, balsam clover, red clover and white clover, crimson clover, as well as the veggies, Hungarian veg, common veg and winter veggies. Then peas and beans are used as cover crops. The family of lupines, blue lupine, white lupine, yellow lupine. The grass pea, Latyrus, lucerne is used as cover crop, and some other legumes. We have the family of grasses and cereals, ryegrass, meadowgrass, Saya oat, which is now very familiar. We have sorghum used as a cover crop, rye as a type of spring rye, winter rye, forage rye, or grain rye, and other cereals like barley and oat. And the group of more or less independent cover crops like tagetes, niger, sunflower, sticky nightshade, linseed, buckwheat, and phacelia, sometimes even hennep. So what are the conclusions for your rotation? We have the sowing time, and we say 15th to 20th of August in our region. It's a good sowing time for cover crop. There are some cover crops like sticky nightshade, tagetes, which have to be sown earlier to make a close covering of the soil. But there are also others like niger, buckwheat, sorghum, bersem, spring pea, lupins and vetches, which like to be sown a little bit earlier than middle to end of August. We have some cover crops which are able to be sown later, and mustard is a very good example for it. But also Saya oat, faba beans, winter peas, ryegrass and rye are able to be sown later. The target you have to look for to find the right cover crop for it. Soil stabilization, building organic matter are some. Fixing of nutrients, mobilization of nutrients are some other targets. Erosion control, direct seeding, mulch seeding, that are some examples you can look for. But we didn't mention yet disease control. Disease control with cover crop is one solution you can choose, and we talk during this session a lot about that. Generally, a change of crop means it is an interruption of disease cycles and a kind of prevention. And therefore, I showed you the families of cover crops. So please change the family before you use a cover crop. After a legume, not again a legume. After a brassica, change to a cereal. That is mostly one point to have a prevention against diseases. Inform yourself about possible risk. Best for Soil is a good possibility to inform about possible risk of crop rotation together with cover crops. And take the advantage of breeding in form of resistant cover crop varieties. In radish, we have this so-called multi-resistant radish varieties, which combine resistance against nematodes, diverse nematodes, and a lot of resistance against diseases. With this multi-resistant varieties, it's much more easier for a farmer to choose the right solution. For water supply, in some areas you have less water. In dry conditions, mustard, phacelia, Saya oat and linseed are better. Availability of nutrients and the yield of the previous crop. High nitrogen can be captured by radish. Low nitrogen, then you need legumes within your cover crop. Nutrient release is also some point you can look for. Everything which builds lignin release late the nutrients. Everything which goes green into the winter has a very fast release of nutrients. Some are asking also about the sowing technique. There are the possibility of sowing machine or centrifugal spreader. Tagetes sticky nightshade, big seeded legumes, phacelia, sire oat and sunflower need a sowing machine, and mustard, radish, other brassica crops and coated phacelia are able to be sown with centrifugal spreader. So, cover crops, which one should I use to fit in my rotation? Inform yourself about possibilities. There are a lot of possibilities. Focus on your main targets and adapt to your conditions. It is nice to have a good advertisement of good growing cover crops, but it doesn't fit to your growing conditions. So build up yourself and develop and customize best system for your farming system with the help of cover crop. Thank you for listening, and if there are questions we can talk about.